Nice to see you. Hi everybody, thanks for inviting me to come and speak, Karen. It's a pleasure. It's one of the first talks I've done on this. We've been online. This topic has been online for a year, just over a year. Funny enough, somebody, in fact, Chris was saying, he went to look on YouTube, and there's now thousands of videos and video makers on this. When we started looking at it a year ago, when somebody first brought it to our attention, there was 2 or 3 video makers. That's how quickly this topic has mushroomed and exploded, really. Normally people, and you know the story with when I'm seeing it now, like I say, I've been on board for best part of a year with this realisation, really. And the story you see all the time is, at first I thought, yeah, what a crazy topic, yeah, whatever, it's lunatic. But when I looked at it for a couple of weeks, I watched videos, I did measurements, I thought about this, that and the other and all the rest of it, and I came back and I can't believe it, you know, the world is right. It's a story we hear it again and again and again. I've been doing it for a year, and people either get on board with it or they're closed off. You know, it's like, you know, I'm not having any of it, and that's fine. What I'm really grateful for is the opportunity to come and talk about this stuff live. You know, in front of a live audience and see how it goes. I've no idea how it's going to go, so we'll see. The similarities between what you already know, can you move to the next slide? The similarities between what you already know and this topic should become self-evident, you know, through the talk I'm going to do. And that's what I've concentrated on. These are the 4 things. First of all, because this topic does drive people nuts, there's a difference between your primary knowledge and your secondary knowledge, and I'm going to contradict myself as you always do later on, but your primary knowledge is what you can obviously take from your own experiences, your own observations, your own evidences, but I also included in that the witness testimony of several, you know, of reliable people. So, you know, ordinary people say, lots of Australians say it goes dark at the same time as, you know, it's light here. you take the word for it, you can't be in 2 places at once, that kind of thing. Secondary knowledge is quite clearly everything that you've been told that you can't prove for yourself. We all know that there is, you know, history lies, etc., etc. I mean, you can go on and on with that, but just throughout this topic, you need to bear in mind that the complete difference between what you can actually verify for yourself with your own senses. What can I see, hear, feel? What can I test? If you're into science, what can I set up experiments for? What can I observe through my telescope, etc., etc.? What can I see for myself? And what is then inferred knowledge? That's such and such because it's come from education or Hollywood or all those sources. So just bear in mind the difference between those 2. I'll probably refer back to it quite a lot as we go on. Second thing is, things can be logical but not necessarily related to the real world. Sorry. Things can be logical and not necessarily related to the real world. A good example of that is evolution. I'm not going to get into the whole topic of it tonight, but it does relate to it. Or DNA, should I say. Chimpanzees and human beings are allegedly 99% similar in DNA. What they infer from that, and what we're all taught as children, and the whole world is taught, is therefore humans evolved from DNA. Now that's a perfectly logical step to make. It's a perfectly logical and plausible way of thinking. However, if I give you another potential explanation, you can see how, well, it's logical, they're both logical, but just because it's logical, it doesn't necessarily mean that's correct in terms of the real world. So in terms of, if you say, you know, if you go the other side of the fence to evolution, you say everything's been created or designed, then of course, if you're going to design a chimpanzee and a human being, of course the designs are going to be similar. Of course you're going to use similar DNA. You're not going to throw away, or you know, it's DNA for legs, arms, eyes, hair, you know, all the rest of it. So quite clearly, you're going to have, not one necessarily leads to the other, and just because something's logical, necessarily, quite obviously, it relates to the real world. You're all with me on that? Did I explain that well? Okay, cool. Everything I'm also going to say tonight, quite clearly, and I always say this when I do Wake Up Manchester, don't believe a word I say. You don't have to believe a word I say, but I'm not like the guy on the BBC News staring right into you every single night, hypnotising you, telling you what to think. Please go and research every single thing for yourself. Every single thing that's come from the internet, it's all researchable for yourself quite clearly. That's what you expect people who are seeking the truth to go and do as well. And the other thing is, it's just a change of perspective. So like I say, it drives people crazy. It's more the people that I suppose, spent a life doing more scientific study. Yeah, that I've really invested in science, in whatever, in all its forms. Or it could be any kind of profession that doesn't involve navigation or where you're on the pilot, sailors, etc., etc. But at the end of the day, this is just going to be a change of perspective. If you get what we're talking about tonight. Next slide. I find after a year of it comes down to arguing with people really, but you think you're trying to explain and show people, but I think one of the problems is if the thing's so ludicrous, because we've all been brought up, we believe in a spinning globe Earth in a vast universe. So if somebody comes along and says none of that's true, we're on a fixed plane, there's no universal lie, quite clearly, you're going to think the person's mad. So any piece of evidence that you come up with, and there's lots and lots and lots, doesn't matter, because it's already too ludicrous in the first place. I'm not going to accept it. So quite clearly I'm just saying, have an open mind, let the evidence build up. Let the evidence build up for yourself. Click on. Doesn't depend on one piece of information. Yeah, I didn't see the first video or the first or the first twig or the first idea and suddenly think, oh yeah, I realise I'm wrong now. Quite clearly, it takes a lot of clues. Next, please. Okay, we all know about false flags, the war on terror. Hands up if you don't. You're not aware that. The entire telescreen war, it's all 1984, we're all being led. Everybody knows that, yeah? Cool, excellent. Let's move on. Our health, quite clearly. The attacks everywhere. We all know about everything on the screen. Yeah, cool. Move on. Banking, yeah, move on. Wicked. Every single leader, you're not falling for Putin's the saviour or anything like that. They're all in on it. You know what I mean? New World Order, etc., etc. Please move on. What else? You're 100% sure the moon landings were fake? Yeah. No? Not sure? Hands up if you're 100% sure the moon landings were fake. Maybe in the studio. Okay, it's about 60%. Cool. Everything NASA does is a lie. Obviously, everybody knows that there's an occult brotherhood. Jesuits, Freemasons, there's various speculation about, who's at the top, who's running it, all the rest of it, but quite clearly, we know about the occult, freaky societies. And again, we know that we've been mass programmed through the education system, being indoctrinated. We know quite clearly that it's all propaganda through the media, not just the news, but even the entertainment. It's not entertainment, it's propaganda. It's all to program our minds into believing in this cult. Okay, who believes they're living on a spinning globe? Nobody. One person. So I'm talking to the already converted. Everybody's already researched all this. Okay, fair enough. Like I say, I don't. What I don't do is go on speculation so much. That, you do when you first look into a topic. You look at everything, you think everything, you want to look at everything, you discuss everything. But when you get your feet back on the ground, all I want to know is what can I disprove. Okay, if it's something that I can't prove, then there's no point in saying that obviously this is fact. What I think this whole thing needs is for people to realise that we've been deceived, realise that isn't the model, and then obviously, especially the scientific among us, to go out and find out what the hell is the model. You know what I mean? Let's work together and find out what it is, because they're lying about it. This is the number one reason why we believe the Earth is a ball, because we've seen photographic evidence. That was taken in 1972, and it was used and used again and again and again and again on so many different pictures. And never twig, hang on a minute, how come it's the same? It's the same. How come they took one picture? You know what I mean? Photographers take hundreds of thousands of pictures of one rare bird or whatever it is. We'll come back to it in a minute. Next slide. Everybody's got a globe in the classroom. There's a globe in every classroom. That's another reason. We just taught it. 2 and 2 is 4, and the world that you live on is a ball. The difference between primary knowledge and secondary knowledge. Nobody's ever seen that. You've never seen that. It's the secondary knowledge. This is where we live. Okay, fine. Everybody gets taught it. Everybody believes it. Somebody says, "Is that true?" You get laughed at. You're completely insane. You're completely out of the room. Is this science fiction or science fact? Again, nobody's ever seen it. We've never actually had a picture of it. We've seen planets and what have you from the ground, but this is all conjecture, and again, it's programmed into us via education again and again and again. Next slide. Obviously, with this subject, we've been looking out for genuine photographs. That's from one of the many weather balloons that were sent up, some by school kids. What they generally tend to do, them GoPro lenses, if you probably watch them, is they go that way and then flat and then that way as they float up. When they calm down, quite clearly see the horizon's flat. I tell you the other thing as well is, no matter how high you go up, I think that one went to about 22 miles. The horizon's always at eye level. That would never happen if you were on a ball, and it doesn't matter how big the ball is. This is another thing that we've never questioned. From saying it's just massive. We're on a ball, and it's 24,000 miles in circumference, and it's 8,000 miles in diameter, and it's so big you're not going to notice the curve or anything else. So, but every horizon's always flat, no matter what. You know, please. Again, if we've seen all these kind of pictures all our lives, this is the first photograph taken from space, and again, flat horizon. Now you can look at that. Go back, if you would. Go more, another one, and they can do one or two things with that. You know what I mean? Because it's always a small quarter, and they can say, you can get it to imply that it's just part of a massive Earth, but as you've seen, it's a completely and utterly straight, flat horizon. Next. Okay, we're going to whiz through these, because you all know the moon landers were completely fake. It was completely issued. You've got to think as well that if you're faking the moon landers, they didn't go halfway there. I hear stories of, I think we went there, but there was aliens, and they warned us off, so we ran away again. That's from a Hollywood script. It's how easy that people's ideas and beliefs about the world, about the truth in the world, are mixed up and confused by Hollywood and by education. If you ever really want to tell people, you want to show proof to people that the moon landers are fake, just show them the landscapes. Just compare landscapes from the moon with landscapes from. I just picked a few at random on the internet. We'll run through them in a sec, but you can quite clearly tell these are sets and they're painted on. And obviously the real landscapes from Earth, real landscapes, supposed to be a quarter of the size, but you'd still get a sense of depth. Your own eyes, your own senses can quite clearly see that the difference between the moon, the film set, and Earth. It doesn't seem to be any longer than 100 yards, but we'll flick through. Yeah. You can't really see with the colour very well, can you? Okay. Quite clearly see there are mountains in the distance. It is going to take you quite a while to get over there, unlike the next picture. Yeah, these are painted on. So I should have the pointer really. This is a set. That's where the actual set finishes. This is Stanley Kubrick's mountains. Let's have a look what he did for 2001, the year before the moon landings. Yeah, move on. Grand Canyon, as you can tell, it's got real depth to it. Again, just flick through them. Just compare these side by side. People will soon quite clearly see real mountains, fake mountains, real mountains, fake mountains, real landscape, fake landscape. Everything's pristine for the shots. That was the first picture taken by Neil Armstrong from the moon. Gold foil. They love the gold foil, NASA. It's a film set. Everything you see there is a film set. In 1969 we were a lot more gullible. But it doesn't matter now because it's a done deal. That's what I'm saying about I suppose received mass science really. It's a done deal. We went to the moon, now we're moving on, now we're on Mars. And funnily enough, we're releasing The Martian at the moment with Matt Damon. They've just released that. I mean, NASA have been in the news a hell of a lot recently. All of a sudden, you didn't hear them for years, and now almost every week they've discovered a new planet or a new this or a new that. That's because this realisation that we've been lied to on this scale is becoming quite clearly mass knowledge. They monitor the social networks and the YouTube network. They can see it's going in size. They're countering it. So it'd be nice if everybody does find out about it. Fake moon rocks given to the Dutch Prime Minister. How we laughed about it. It's petrified wood. I think it went for £348,000 or something at auction. I'm not going to go into the lunar lander. Like I said, I didn't know how well versed you were with everything. Again, just ask people, how did two men live in what is basically a two-man tent for 14 days? Keep going with no toilet, no store for the waste, tiny little bits of oxygen, water. Where's no? I don't know where they stored the food. And if we figured out how to do CO2 recycling technology, maybe we could tell the global warming alarmist, propagandist liars as well about it. Doesn't make sense. And that's an exact replica. I don't even know how they got in this door, to be honest, with a big spacesuit on. But you know, there you go. So car, go on, just flick all through these. Apparently they stretch over in hammocks. Inhumane. Go on. Yeah, go through. This is interesting. They did 7 missions to the moon. 1 crashed. You know what number it was? Apollo 13. It's funny as well because all the landing sites that they did make. So one didn't crash. He didn't get there, and they had to slingshot it, and they made a film about it. Excuse me. All the landing sites are on the near side of the moon, the light side of the moon. Again, these people don't do anything by halves. They don't miss a trick. Everything's numerology and symbology with these, but we'll come back to it in a minute. What I really want to do is talk about how NASA and everything that the public has shown about outer space is completely, they are all Freemasons. It's all part of the occult. They don't try to hide it as well. I found this. I thought this is very interesting for people that know what obviously know about 9/11. The symbology here is phenomenal. You know what I mean? 9/11, right there. Okay, you've got it's a 30-year anniversary. Yeah, fair enough. They could have done it at 25 years. They could have done it at 40 years. But they chose 30 years. 9/11. It's also 2 years before 9/11. Quite clearly, what's the ones? Why are the L's? You know what I mean? It's just, anybody that knows will make that connection quite easily. Next. We've got your double-headed eagle, the Rothschilds, your square and compass, our men on the moon, 33-degree right, southern, Albert Pike's chapter of the occult brotherhood. Yeah, move on. All Freemasons. Move on. Like I say, you probably already looked all this up for yourself. Here's the crew of Apollo 13. They look really happy. Symbolism everywhere. Go on. Yeah. All of this stuff freely available on the internet, like I say, just in case you weren't sure about myself. It's not again hiding it. There's his big Shriner hat. Yeah. Mason ring. Keep going. I don't know if you know about Jack Parsons of JPL, Jet Propulsion Laboratories. He completely tied in with Aleister Crowley, who you should all know, obviously through again, the Freemasons, the Theosophists, self-titled the wickedest man in England. He would have sex with animals, boys, all the rest of it. If he was alive today, it's funny enough, Aleister Crowley, if he was alive today, he would be wickedly popular. He'd be a cool cult dude. You know what I mean? Satanism's quite popular at the moment. The connections, you've got L. Ron Hubbard with Scientology. L. Ron Hubbard and Jack Parsons formed a Babylon working sex cult thing in Hollywood, and again, this is how NASA got its start. Walt Disney was also involved. We'll come back to him shortly as well. Yep. Jack Parsons at an occult ceremony. You can see the Masonic floor there. It's still going on today. It's not old. There's the ISS doing a change of command ritual. Again, if you've done any research into NASA and space and the ISS. This is not out in space. Again, if you've watched any of the videos, they've got hooks on the back of them. They're floating like this. I don't know if you've seen the woman with the Medusa hair. That's a beauty. That, you know what I mean? It's got weaving all over the place. It's stuck like that. You know what I mean? But hey, there you go. Everything's connected with the occult with these guys. Yeah. Again, if you're aware of that that side of everything that's going on. You can see quite clearly how NASA, outer space, all of this connects in. Yeah, keep going. I love this. Motorcycle helmet's going to keep you safe from radiation, and a shiny silver suit, John Glenn. Just brilliant. So they stopped going to try to pretend that they went to the moon. They did their 7 missions, but they're 1 missing. Like number 6, don't we? So we did space shuttles then, but every space shuttle launch. They go up, and then they go kind of on the back and along for quite a while, and it goes out of view. And I look for, and again, try this for yourself if you would. Look on YouTube for one guy, 135 missions. They did one guy that just pointed the camera out the front window, and uncut and continuously saw go rise up and all the way into outer space. I mean, I don't know if they didn't go. I don't. They might have gone 400 or 500 miles up, but at least show us that every single video cuts, and it normally cuts to a piece of CGI of the satellite spinning that they've got the payload for. Well, why not just keep it going? Every single one cuts. You always ask yourself as well, why do all these launch stations like Cape Canaveral, Cape Kennedy and all these places, why are they all by this thing? If they're all going off the Earth up into space, why not have it in the middle of the land? What difference does it make? It's going up in it. Well, the reason for that is because what they do is they go up and they go on the back and they go over out of sight and they parachute down to the sea and stay out away for 10 days, 2 weeks, or well, they go to their underwater film studios. They've got several different types. It's just a plane. You know, I was quite disappointed. I remember being disappointed because I was a sci-fi fan and all the rest of it. I was quite disappointed when they went from these rockets that, you know, these outer space rockets that could go to the moon. It's basically a plane, and it even needs some kind of jet things to get it going anyway. But again, you don't question it until, you know what I mean, until somebody, I suppose, you know, gives you a little shake. You just don't question it. But it's not just that we didn't go to the moon, it's that they're lying about every single thing about outer space. Next, please. Keep it. Lycra and nylon are going to keep you safe from Van Allen belts and massive solar flares and radiation, apparently. Mylar, nice reflective surface. Teflon. Yeah. This is an astronaut. Go back. Yeah. I remember we wanted to be an astronaut when you were a kid. You couldn't be an astronaut, you've got to know all this science and you've got to know this thing and you've got to be physically fit and all the rest of it. I don't know how many billions they're spending. I do actually. It's 17 billion a year. 17 billion NASA invests for this year. You think, you know, I don't know if this guy's got like 17 more degrees than me and he knows loads more science than me, but it just doesn't look real at all. What's that? You think they come up with something more elegant than that? It's like one of them big chuck keys. Go on, keep going. Anybody seen this recently? Pictures of Pluto out in NASA. I mean, we've got Brian Cox now saying there might be life under Pluto. They've certainly come out with water and an atmosphere all of a sudden. I think it looks like, well, a lot of people saw it straight away. You know what I mean? Keep going. Christmas bauble. This is the biggest one. It's an Atlas stone. It's an Atlas stone. Honestly, as soon as I kind of reposted this and said, what the hell is this? People that went to the gym said, is this some kind of observation test? It's quite clearly an Atlas stone. And again, sorry about it, you know, it's not displaying as, can you go back? It's not displaying as good as it could. Go to the Atlas stones. You can't really see the texture there, but all they've basically done is taken one of those and filtered it up and taken a picture of it and called it another planet. Keep going. Somebody's did some work on Photoshop with it. Again, you can't really see the rings here, but you can quite clearly see it's been created and pasted in. There's not been a what do they call it? Probe. I don't know the name what they call it. Something satanic and Babylonian. But the probe has not flown past Pluto and taken that picture quite clearly. Photoshop proves that. Yeah. This is the latest Dyson. It's not. Oh, it's the latest air conditioner. It's not. Does anybody know what this is? Believe it or not, this is it's the Kepler telescope. It's the Kepler telescope. Can prove it. Next slide. That's it being built with all its gold foil and all the NASA scientists with the suits as if it's, I don't know, radioactive or something. I don't know. It's about, I suppose, about as big as a house. Here's a picture of it in space. Again, go back. That's primary knowledge. Okay, that's some guys building a machine. We don't know whether it's going to work or anything else, but there's some guys building a machine. That's fair enough. Go forward. That's secondary knowledge. That's telling us that it's going to fly in space. But that's not actually a picture of it in space. I defy anybody to find a real photo of a real satellite working in space. Yeah, we've just got the Milky. Well, I say the Milky Way, whatever the streak in the sky is. bent it a bit, and obviously superimposed it. Again, they're all like this. This is how it explains how we know about all these other planets out there. It's how it detects planets. It doesn't actually see them. None of these telescopes are out in space, like actually seeing them, with these amazing cameras and what have you. So now it works. Basically, the light from a distant star dips for a bit, or it dips regularly, and they measure that, and they measure the electromagnetic spectrum of it, the light spectrum of it. That's about it. Now, from that, so you're talking about numbers. Yeah, we'll get a list of numbers and what have you. From that, we get pictures like this, which everybody's seen. Yep. They will then get artists to give you artist renditions. They don't hide it again. They will never say this is a real picture of Kepler 26a or whatever. They're going to say this is an artist impression of what it would look like if we could actually see it. But we've just got basically a star that's twinkled a bit. Okay, and who's got a telescope? Who's an astronomer? Wicked, just one. Okay, we've actually invested in a telescope and started looking a lot more since we came across this subject. Here's a lovely picture, a lovely image of Saturn. This is what Saturn looks like, as we all know, except it's an artist rendition. This is a painting. It's a painting because it's actually got the names of the artists. One did the planet, one did the couple of the moons. Steve Albers did the other moons. This is what Saturn actually looks like. It's the best photograph of a telescope from the ground that I could find of Saturn. So it's got ears, it's got rings, as Galileo said. It's probably got moons as well, but the difference between that one and the one before is you don't know what that is. Yeah, the ancients described them as wandering stars. Yep. Here's one of Jupiter. Again, that's the painting, that's the one we all think of as Jupiter. I'll look for the best one we could find from a real telescope from the ground of Jupiter, and this one from the Keck. about the best I could get, the most detailed. Again, yeah, you could probably get that our image of Jupiter from that, but I don't know. Is it a massive, great big gas giant planet, millions and billions of miles away? I don't know. Can't tell from that. Primary knowledge, secondary knowledge. That used to be Pluto until recently. It's changed a lot. The big red eye. I remember it looking like the Death Star. You remember those things? These are all paintings. It's all paintings. It's all images. Here's the Hubble telescope. Don't know if you recognise this picture of the Earth here from the 1972 shot, and they've superimposed the Hubble on it. It's also looking at distant stars and galaxies for us. Yep. I like this picture of the Hubble the best because, again, click, it's on the flat Earth. It's got a flat horizon, completely flat. Yep. Does anyone know how the Hubble telescope works? We looked into it, but you might know a little bit about it. It's got a big primary mirror, yeah, and it catches the light, and then it goes to the secondary mirror, and then off the secondary mirror goes into a little hole in the primary mirror, and that's where all the really special instrumentation is that does all the things. Is that about right? Yeah, something like that. They don't explain where the light goes from the hole. Yeah, because obviously there's light shining in the hole. There's got to be a hole for the second mirror to get in, but that's not the important point. When you start looking at the so-called technology, all the different instruments that are on the Hubble, it starts to sound like a science. It starts to sound like science fiction. It starts to sound like somebody who wrote for Star Trek on it. Let's go through it very, very quickly. I'm not going to read it all, but they all do pretty much the same thing. Yeah. And it basically admits right at the end that none of them we're not actually getting an image. This is from NASA's own website, but it's got all kinds of, and they sound great. The cosmic origins spectrograph, and they see near ultraviolet and near infrared and what, but then they're studying dark energy and dark matter, which can't be seen, can it? You know, the ACS, which is the Advanced Camera, so it sees visible light, so it's a camera. But it's designed to study some of the earliest activity in the universe, which I'm assuming is the furthest away. So if there's a camera and it sees visible light, the normal light spectrum that we and other cameras can see, how is it supposed to see the earliest and see dark matter and the most distant objects and search for massive planets? All these things. The Space Telescope Imaging Spectrograph It sees ultraviolet visible and near infrared light, so it sees light basically. It's known for its ability to hunt black holes. While the COS works best with small sources of light such as stars or quasars, it can map out large objects like galaxies. And it goes on and on, and it's got all these special instruments, and then what we end up with is all these pictures from basically numbers. These are all artist impressions. Every single impression that you've got of a galaxy and a whole other worlds and everything else in your head have been put there by instruments that they don't add up when you start, like I say, when you start really investigating them, really start questioning them. Yep. So the question is, why fake the moon landings then? A lot of people, a lot of truthers say, I realise the moon landings were faked. It's because of the Cold War with Russia. It's because of to encourage scientists. Whatever. You get all kinds of excuses, I suppose. Excuses for the rulers, but they're never beneficent. They're not. They don't do things for us. They do things for them. And whatever they do, whatever they announce, whatever major push they're doing, whatever they're selling through the media, it's never for our benefit, ever, ever, ever. Yeah. So if you know NASA have never been into space, how can we trust any of those images of the ball Earth that they're saying that they're taking on these missions? Yeah, they're going to outer space, but they're not. But they're showing us all these images. This is from Voyager, from 1977. It's part of the Earth and the Moon in the same shot. None of it looks real. That got me really investigating into it. Is there any real video of the Earth spinning in space? There's a few stills. There's not as many stills as there should be, but there's no real video. You can find a few composites. I'm going to show one that they released this year. That'll really, if you believed anything before, you'll go, hang on a minute. There's no video. You'd want to see that. The Earth's supposed to be a magnificent spinning blue jewel in the vastness of space, and it's light lit up. It's the only one with life. Yeah, obviously, it takes 24 hours to turn. I realise you're not going to see much of it, but I'd like to see, just for 10 minutes or 15 minutes. Show us. ISS have got a live feed now. I don't know if you've had a look at it. Again, that's not the whole ball Earth spinning in space, really. You've never seen it. Again, investigate for yourself, because that's what really got me really thinking on it. We've got all this equipment out there, all these satellites, all these missions and probes. Why not any real videos of real Earth? People wouldn't believe me at first when I show it. How many seen this before? Nobody's seen it? A couple. This is, again, it's official NASA photo from 1 million miles away from Earth of the moon passing in front of the Earth. I don't know if you can see it, or you can all see it. Sorry, I'm going right on the shot. Now, don't forget, the moon's supposed to be orbiting the Earth. Yeah, it's supposed to go around it. That's what they tell us. But that's just all they've done is quite clearly, and they say it's a composite. I'll show you as well, and again, you can investigate it yourself. It's on NASA's own website. That's just going straight across. It's not going. It's not going around the Earth. That is it. All they're doing is passing it in front of the Earth and spinning the Earth a little bit. And as you said, there's no actual movement of the clouds. Now that's 5 hours. If you click it, it'll tell you between 3:50 and 8:45 p.m. on July the 16th. That's 5 hours, and the clouds just go. There's also a hot spot, if you notice, pretty much in the middle of the Earth. But that hot spot is not taken over by the moon when it passes in front. So if the sun's supposed to be in front, out here, isn't it? Yeah, there. That's why it's all lit up, and you've got a full moon. And you've got a little hot spot here, if you can see it. There, on the Earth. But the moon, that doesn't change at all. Quite clearly, you can keep going on about this, to be honest, but quite clearly this is a fake. But they're telling us that it's real. It's been released to mainstream media. Most of the world thinks this is a real image of Earth. You're mad. Shut the hell up. When you actually start examining it, you start looking at it with the open eyes that you've already got, you realise that no, this is a fake too. Because Earth looks different every year, to be honest. I'm going to really get into that in a minute. Yeah, next. And again, from that 2015 image, this is a shot from, I think it's 72 again. One of the guys on the moon, there's the distant Earth. Well, if that's right, then it'd be like that. Actually, no. I think. Next. It's probably more like going to be like that. It's going to be about 4 times the size as the moon appears to us in the sky, you'd expect. If you could actually stand on the moon, and I don't believe you can, I don't believe it is a rock, then the Earth should look 4 times as big as the moon does to us, because it's allegedly 4 times bigger. Next. This is a still from the same set of images from this Discover satellite. Again, you can check this for yourself if you've got, if you've got the internet. There's something very, there's a secret hidden in there. Does anybody know who doesn't know who hasn't really researched into the fly earth? Has anybody noticed anything odd about this?
Is it the word sex?
It is indeed. It is indeed. It's right up there. I mean, even before that, and we'll go into it, but where the hell's the rest of South America? Is it had a flood? Again, I'm going to show you a comparison of all the Earths well, not all the Earths, but a few of the Earths that NASA have released. And the land masses changed, the shape of the continents changed, the colour, you know what I mean? And I know, the world changes, but not this much. Although I don't think the colours are going to really bring it out. All that we've done with that 2015 NASA picture, you turn it upside down, you can probably already see it, and it says sex. And you think, well, does it? I mean, it says something. It says something. No, it's close. Go on. And again, we haven't doctored this. This is from the official image from 2015, the official released image. So you can check it out for yourself. You move on. You think, well, is this? Again, is it coincidence? But you see exactly the same thing from Disney. Now and again, if you don't know, Disney are programming all the kids, not just Disney, obviously all the major corporations, all the major propaganda, all the major entertainment, the media, etc., etc. But that's too close, because that's done in exactly the same way. You could do it in a zillion different kinds of scripts, but that is written in exactly the same way. It's from The Lion King, that. And if you think, again, are we seeing things that aren't really there? Click on. Now, Walt Disney are doing this a hell of a lot. And again, I don't know if you can make these out, but these are all stills from Disney films. Yeah, all programming. All of these are programming children. It's how we're living in a sex cult. They say this Babylonian death and sex cult, and this is a big part of it. Yeah, Walt Disney itself. We can see the 6, the first 6 on the left of the W. There's another 6 where the I with the dot of the I, and then there's another 6 which is the Y. 6, 6, 6. All part of the same cult. Yeah. All programming. It's all programming on mind. Move on. NASA. You spent I don't know. You could spend quite some time going through the mnemonics for NASA. Again, when you look into it for yourself, obviously it's all Luciferian deception. Move on. This is what I really wanted to show. Again, these are all NASA images of the place where you're supposed to live. Yeah. The continents change every time. I tried to pick the ones that showed. I picked America. It could have been anywhere. It could have been the ones that all showed Africa, but America. The size of America here. Now, this is an official 2012 shot from the Kuoni satellite of Earth. And they released it, and look at the size of America. It's the biggest continent you've ever seen in your life, but it's shrunk back to normal size again in 2015. I mean, that's some serious. That is, if that's true, then we really have got problems. You know what I mean? We really have got climate change or environmental problems, which again I think are all made up, and I think they all tie into it. Yeah, move on. It's not just the NASA side, the so-called news side, the education side, the official side, the sciencey side. They're getting us on the other side. You're aware of obviously NASA. You're aware of Operation Paperclip. Not all of them went to be rocket technicians. all of this is programming as well, and I, more than anybody, as much as everybody, loves Star Wars, Star Trek, sci-fi, the idea of flying a fighter and all the rest of it. Unfortunately, it's all again part of the programming, part of the agenda. Yeah, move on. Yeah, just flick through these. I'm sure we're all aware of what sci-fi is, but it's again year after year, and it's fascinating. It's brilliant stuff, but they're not entertaining us. They're not entertaining us. They're not trying to inspire us. All they're trying to do, and they're not trying to fear us either. I don't think they're just trying to get us to think within this box, within this way. Obviously, that we're in this vast universe. Now, how can you tell the difference? Just go back a sec. Just go back a couple. So, how can you tell the difference? If they can do that, you know what I mean? I've seen spaceships flying and worlds and everything else on the screen. If they can do that, then how do you know that this? The next one. How do you know that the ISS and the pictures that they show from that? How do we know they're real? It's images on a telescreen. It's secondary knowledge. You haven't been up there and seen it for yourself. And you will say, well, a lot of people say, well, I've seen the curve from a plane. Well, again, have a look next time. I'll show you. I've got a couple of photos of that, but have a look next time for yourself. And again, it's programming. It's pre-programming. Because again, there's supposed to be thousands and thousands of satellites up there. Some are close, some are, and they're all doing all different kinds of jobs. But any time you see, go back to the ISS one again. Anytime you see a picture from us, there's never any other satellites on it. And they've started to put a few stars on now, but just a little bit of token stars. You'll never see all the constellations. That's why you never see any stars on the moon, by the way, because it would be. I would imagine it'd be a pain now, but we've got green screen techniques and everything else to get all the constellations right. So the question, they couldn't do it in 1969 or 1972. Go on. Yeah, go on. That's the best photo I could find of the ISS, because people again say, oh, I can track the ISS on the app, and I look up in the sky and the lights crossing. And they're like, well, guess what? They can coordinate stuff. I don't know, by the way. I don't know if it's a hologram. Again, that's the closest, best photo I could get from a ground telescope. Doesn't look solid to me. Again, it's conjecture up in your own mind, but that, again, it doesn't look solid. It doesn't look like they're taking all those photos for us. Yep. More completely different images. I really wanted to add that one for the 1967 one, and again, just some mad colours. Unfortunately, the screen's not bringing it out. But how can the Earth change that much? You know what I mean? And it goes backwards and forwards. Whether it goes brighter, and then it goes duller, and then it goes brighter again, and then you know what I mean? They give us a different picture every time. But again, until you put them all together and see. Because obviously they keep us distracted and occupied the whole time anyway, so that's why people find it hard to connect the dots anyway. On the regular stuff, on the false flags and the falseness of left and right politics and all the rest of it. Yeah. Lots of, like I say, if we'd seen these pictures all our lives, we've seen these photos all our lives, it would be. It would be a completely different world, to be honest. But again, it's not just the flatness of the horizon. You see that with your own eyes everywhere as well. It's also the fact that it's at eye level. Yeah, it doesn't matter how high you go or how high they say the shot's from, and when they bend it with the GoPro lenses, or whatever techniques they use, the horizon's still at eye level. If you run a ball, and the next time you've got a beach ball, have a look, go from eye level and go up, and you'll see the horizon will drop. It doesn't matter how big the ball is. You can imagine the biggest ball you want. Start rising up from it, and see where the horizon is eventually going to go. It must start dropping down at some point. You'll never see that with your own eyes. Primary knowledge and secondary knowledge, because that's what people say. If I would say you've seen the curve from a window of a plane or from a mountain, but you've seen the curve in photos. But here we go. We've got one from the ISS is supposed to be 250 miles up, and it's not curving quite as much as Felix Baumgartner's famous jump from 2012, from 24 miles up. So from 10 times higher, the curve's not quite as much. They're just manipulating the images. It's quite clear. And again, the Felix Baumgartner jump, it was a thing. You know what I mean? It was a big event. It certainly happened on social media as well. It was great. It was like, he's jumping from edge of space and all the rest of it. But when you think, number one, Red Bull's just a marketing company. That's all they ever were. They're a marketing company. They don't actually do anything else. We know they make a drink, but the marketing comes first. And that whole thing was just so that we'd all look at the shots and go, yeah, it's a curved Earth. That's how much they're investing into it. I don't even know if Felix Baumgartner's into it.
It was straight through a window though.
Say again?
It was straight.
100%. Yeah, I might have stuck it on as well. Next. Yeah. There's a couple of different jumps, but 71,000 feet, and then all of a sudden, yeah, it goes really curved. Yeah, that's the one. That's the one you've seen. Straight line, just about to jump out. This is the big famous one. So there's 128,000, just about to jump out. There we go, outside. Curve. And we'll put the ISS in again. Again, all they're doing is just bending that thing, and it's programming. Yep, hang on. Does anybody know what the equation for the curvature of the Earth is? We all live on a curved Earth. Yeah. All these professions. Yeah. If you're a sailor or a pilot or if you're firing a gun, didn't Russia fire some missiles 1,000 kilometres to hit ISIS targets the other day or something? So they tell us. You know what I mean? In the news. But if you're on a ball and you're firing something 1,000 metres, that is going to drop away quite a bit. Yeah, if you're just aiming like that, you're going to miss your target. Not just them architects and engineers. All kinds of different professions must know what this calculation is because they must have to use it on a daily basis. It should be like I say, like it's E equals MC squared. Now I don't use it, and you don't use it for most days. We're not, astrophysicists or what have you. Some people might, but we all know about E equals MC squared because it's such an important equation for science. Well, why isn't the curve of the Earth? Oh, everybody knows the curve of the Earth is such and such, and that's why you can't see buildings from such and such. We've never ever thought about it before. All we've been told again is it's just massive. It's a massive place. You'll never see the curve. But there must be. Doesn't matter how big you think it is. It's a ball, according to our common belief. So there must be some curvature. Okay, even if we can't see it, that's fair enough. But what is the calculation for that curvature? How far can I see out? Before it drops, before buildings drop away. But it's not common knowledge, it's not something we're all taught, it's not something, so far as I know, engineers or any of these other professions are taught. Does anybody know what unless you've actually looked into the flat Earth?
Is it 8 inches per mile squared?
Yeah. Was anybody else aware of that? Yeah. Okay, apart from it's funny how people who look into the flat Earth know quite a lot about the measurements of the globe. I know the circumference of the Earth, I know the radius of the Earth. I don't believe it's a ball, but I know all the supposed measurements. I never knew them before. If you want to find out about all the physics in the globe, ask a flat earther. Yeah. I've gone through them all. Yeah. 8 inches per mile distance squared. Now a lot of people have argued with me online saying, no, it's just 8 inches per mile, and they do this on Google, by the way. If you Google curvature of the Earth, it will say 8 inches per mile. Yeah, on Wikipedia, in the first few, you can dig down. I think the second page, you start going to 8 inches per mile distance squared. If it's 8 inches per every mile, it'd just be it'd just be a gentle slope. It'd just be a gentle slope. 8 inches every mile. I actually worked it out for 3,959 miles for the full radius. If you're only doing 8 inches every mile, your drop is half a mile. But people will argue till they're blue in the face because they don't want to let the concept go that they've been taught all their lives. Yeah, at the end of the day, if they're saying that the radius is 3,959 miles, yeah, and through AutoCAD using, through Pythagorean trigonometry using the AutoCAD to, however many, 15-digit precision, what have you, it's 8 inches per mile of distance squared. So the first mile, you're only going to see, you only have 8 inches of drop, that's fair enough, we can live with that. Second mile, you square it, so it's 4 miles times the 8 inches is 32 inches. So it's only a couple of feet, 2.5 feet. Again, you're not going to see that much. But when you start getting to 20 miles and 30 miles, 40 miles, 50 miles, well within the distance of regular human eyesight, without telescopes, yeah, you're starting to talk about 6, 7, 1,000 feet drops. So it should be, according to if we lived on a ball. And you're not seeing it. And this is probably the biggest clue, or one of the biggest clues, because again it's primary knowledge, it's your own sensory knowledge. You can go anywhere in the country or anywhere in the world and do this, and we've got some examples coming up anyway, but see a long distance where things should have dropped over the horizon and they're quite clearly not yet. Go on. Famous Semiramis statue of slavery, because they do things in reverse, the Satanists. 326 feet above sea level can be seen from 60 miles away. 60 times 60 times 8 inches works out to 2,000 feet below their eyes. If you're 60 miles away, it should be 2,000 feet below. You shouldn't be able to see it from 60 miles away. Now, as it happens, actually, this is secondary knowledge. I haven't seen that for myself, neither have you. But again, you'll be able to do this with your own eyes, with your own experience in your favourite places, favourite flat places of water. Yeah. Notre Dame, Antwerp in Brussels can be apparently seen from 150 miles away. 2.8 miles below the horizon it should be from there. Again, apparently it's both ways around, so you can see out to sea from the spire, but ship captains can see the spire from all that far away. Again, that's secondary knowledge, but there's a lot more examples of this. This is one of the most famous ones within the flat earth community. It's a picture of Chicago. Sears Tower, although I'll say in another slide it's only 1,400 feet high, we'll give the globe Earth some slack and say I believe it's 1,800 feet, or it's 1,800 feet above sea level. Now this picture was it's so damning for the globe Earth that mainstream media in America thought fit to do a little piece on it, saying this photo has been taken by Joshua Nuki, all the way from, I can't remember, it'll come up in a sec, but it's 60 miles away from Chicago. To be honest with you, we should only see like the very top, maybe the very top of the Sears Tower. Move on. Actually, explain now. I took a Google image. To be honest with you, from here, I'm going to show you a few images now from all around this coast, across Lake Michigan. Yeah, from here to here is 37 miles. Yeah, and obviously as you move around, it's going to get more and more and more and more. And I've got another map up. There's about 5 or 6 photos I'm going to show you now. All the way around here. St. George is the biggest one. It's 59, 60 miles away, right across the bay. And that's flat. Yeah, that's flat sea level. Okay, it's going to be choppy and wavy and all the rest of it, which is one of the reasons why you can't see the buildings, but they're all different. Come on. They worked out nicely for me here. Should be 2,300 feet below sea level. So that Sears Tower is 1,800 feet high. It should be 500 feet below the horizon from 60 miles away. They say it's a mirage. They said it's a superior mirage. So I went looking at what a superior mirage is. These things do exist, but it is actually a mirage. It looks like a mirage. It's wavy and it's, you know what I mean? It doesn't look right. And you can tell it's not a one-off because I went looking for more photos of Chicago from different places. Just flick through them. From Stevensville, you see virtually all the skyline there. Go on. It's not a one-off. Lots and lots of times people have photoed Chicago from right across the bay. It shouldn't be possible. 37 miles is 900 feet, so you should see half of the Sears Tower and probably not much else of the Chicago skyline. It's not the only place in the world. Go on, keep going. Yeah, keep going. It's more proof, right? Do you know in Italy, 81 miles from the Isle of Gorgona, so it stands 70 feet above sea level. I've not even worked it out, to be honest, but you can if you want yourself. All you do is take the miles and square it. 80 times 80 times 8 inches. Yeah, and that's how many inches it should be below, and then you obviously divide it by 12 for feet and yards and miles and what have you. Shouldn't be able to see it. Some closer to home now as well. The Isle of Man from the Fylde coast. Again, there's 3 or 4 different sources here, and it says you can only see it 3 or 4 times a year. Yeah, but you can see it, and again, it's, what does it say? What's it say on there? 61 miles. 61 miles away. Again, that's 1,600 feet. It's nearly a mile, I think. Should be a mile below the horizon. Yeah. Again, I put a nice little Google map on for you, but you can check it out for yourselves. Yeah. From Cleveland's, completely different shot, completely different photo source. From Visit Cleveland's again, a couple more different photos. Isle of Man across the bay. You know, it's the Irish Sea. You know, shouldn't be able to see it if the globe was curved. Or, yep. Yep. See it from the North Wales coast as well, all the way from Llandudno, 75 miles away. Yeah, somebody else's photo. Google. There was a time when I thought Google's going to kind of change the world because you've got all the information, all the world's library, right? All the world's library at your fingertips. Quite clearly, this is the 1984, the Winston Smith, the rewriting of fiction and history that they warned us about. It's going to be online, it's going to be virtual. We know they're going paperless, and there's this move to do it. It'll be another generation, but there'll be no paper. Everything will be digital. All information will be controlled. You won't be able to get these kind of photos on your matches anymore, especially if more people become aware of it. Yep. Showing you this one from 1946, first rocket up into space. Yep. There's a big one. Difference between primary knowledge and secondary knowledge. Again, we've seen all these photos of the ball Earth for our eyes, but they've got these big Pacific Oceans and Indian Oceans and Atlantic Oceans which must kind of bend round. Oh, well, gravity does it, but I don't want to get into that. At the end of the day, have you ever seen water with your own eyes bend into the shape of the ball? It doesn't do it. It does this. Long, big, flat stretches. Yeah, it gets wavy and choppy, but it's just long stretches of big, flat water. Yeah? Yeah, that's what water does. It doesn't bend into the shape of a ball. And again, they can say, well, it's huge and what have you. 120 miles long, the Suez Canal, no locks at all. No drops. Yeah? We'll leave it there, we'll have a break. I wanted to mention just the Nile as well, goes for 4,300 miles, it drops about 100 miles over that course. So it's virtually goes the whole radius of the Earth and then drops 100 miles from mouth to elevation. So many clues. We'll take a break there for however long, 5, 10, 15 minutes on a break. We're now talking about the non-curvature of water. You never see it bend into a ball with your own eyes, with your own experience. You've never seen it do that. And we've got, again, serious proof. 120 miles. Again, you can work it out for yourself. There should be some serious curvature. No locks, just flat. Like I said, the Nile's the same as well. Some people think this is the sea. So, well, it's just the sun reflecting on the sea. Now, the sun doesn't reflect on the sea like that anyway, does it? I've got another picture coming up. There's a heat spot, there's a hot spot of reflection of the sun on the clouds. You can't quite see it on this thing, but there's a video of it. There's videos of it on YouTube. If you look up most of the flat Earth 3 examples is a good one. Or no curvature on flat Earth, but you'll see this video. And the whole thing bobs up and down. You can see obviously the horizon's flat there as well, by the way. The whole thing bobs up and down. But if the sun was 93 million miles away, it wouldn't be bobbing up and down with the Earth. It'd be fixed. Now, obviously, I can't show you the video. You have to go and look for yourself. But again, another serious clue from real evidence, from somebody set up. It's an amateur. It's not NASA. It's not field. It's not anything else. Some kids who set up a weather balloon with cameras, GPS, etc., sent the signal back, and this is what I said. But see for yourself and see if you think the sun is 93 million miles away. As we've all been taught, as every school kid knows, sounds absolutely mad to say. Doesn't look 93 million miles away there to me. You have seen a video for yourself. Obviously, I've just got stills. Let's do this. We've gone the right way. Now, I've seen the sun look massive on the horizon. Here's a time lapse for yourself that shows it half the size at the zenith. Obviously, forget the 3 shiny ones, but you can see the sun does get bigger, and then as it gets nearer, then moves further away. I've also seen, like I say, massive. I've seen massive moons on the horizon. I don't know. This is one you can't tell because of atmosphere, perspective, refraction. But again, people that say, why do you never see it small on the horizon? If it's just coming towards us or coming past us, or it's another model, basically we're not moving, it is, then how come you never see it, small on the horizon? There's proof that you do. Here's something you never see. Whenever you see the sun reflecting on water, the reflection is all the way to the edge of the water. If you stand at the edge of the water, it always comes all the way. Now, I don't know if anybody's ever seen or been aware of this phenomenon, where you're standing on the beach and you see and the sun's going down, and as it goes down, the reflection recedes across the water. Have you ever seen that phenomenon? Is that a thing? I've never seen it. It just kind of, it's there, and then when the sun's not there, it's gone. Now again, think about it. If you're on a ball, and obviously you're spinning, but basically the light of the sun is receding away as it's kind of going over the horizon, and that's exactly what should happen. That beam of light, that reflection of the sun, should recede away from it. If it was miles in the distance and we're slowly spinning away from it, it should disappear, and that would be a nice earth phenomenon like a rainbow or the northern lights. It doesn't do that. It can only do that from above if the sun's directly above us. It can only do that kind of reflection on water if it's above us and obviously receding away. I can't get used to this now. I've seen the curve of the earth when I've been on a plane out of the window. I tell you now, you haven't. You've been pre-programmed to think that. There's a photo to prove it. Again, that's what you actually see. But look for yourself. Again, look for yourself. Next time you go on a plane, once it's reached its cruising altitude, 35,000, 37,000 feet, it's about 7 miles. They only go about 7 miles up planes. So you're not. And people say, well, you're not. Then they reverse it and say, well, you're not going to see the curve from that high up anymore, from that level altitude. Ayers Rock. Massive flat horizon. Ayers Rock's 15 miles long. I've no idea how far that makes it in the distance. No curve. The moon's a really interesting one. I don't get into it here. Again, the moon, you see a light in the sky. You can go back to the moon landings with this. How it I'm not going to go into it. It's for a few minutes. It glows in the dark. That's our experience. We see it glow in the dark, has different phases. But again, all those shots of the moon from the moon with running about, just double speed them, by the way, you can see them just running about. But they're all grey dust. It's not glow. Rocks don't glow like that. You've got the white cluster Dover, about the brightest you can see in bright sunlight, but it doesn't glow don't glow in the dark. And they say again, the sun, that's lit up by the sun millions of miles away, but there's no hot spot on it. It's always evenly lit. Yeah. I haven't got the pictures of it actually, because like I said, the moon's a whole other. You could do a whole talk for a couple of hours just on the moon. The other thing I say really is use your own senses. When you see the crescent, up to about the crescent, between the crescent and the half moon, especially as the sun's setting, check to see. If you've ever played pool, you should know your angles. Yeah, when the white ball comes off, you know what angle it's supposed to be. So check the angle of the moon as the sun's setting. You'll see it's about 10-20% degree off. When you actually start watching it for yourself, noticing the sky. Obviously, got to be a clear sky. We don't get many of them with the geoengineering nowadays. Tilt of the Earth is 23.4 degrees, according to Wikipedia, the official rulers. Coincidence that to carry on to the vertical, it's 66.6 degrees. Coincidence that the moon's rotation on its own axis is the same as its orbit on Earth, so we always see the same side of the moon. Solar eclipse that the moon's 400 times smaller, but the sun's 400 times bigger. It just so happens that Earth's in the Goldilocks zone for life and everything, all the wonderful life that we see. But it's unimportant amongst all the billions of planets. That's why we're spending billions to look elsewhere. It's got all the right elements for life. Polaris is one of the biggest ones as well. Everybody knows about the North Star. It stays above the North Pole, virtually above the North Pole, night after night, year after year. Sailors quite famously guide and navigate by it. But if you think about it again, we're all taught we're on a ball of Earth. It's spinning around at 1,000 miles an hour, 24,000 miles circumference, 24 hours in a day. It's going around the sun at 67,000 miles an hour. The sun's going around the galaxy at 500,000 miles an hour, and the galaxy is supposed to be splitting apart from the Big Bang at 670 million miles an hour, something ridiculous. Check again, NASA, for yourself. The numbers are astronomical. So all these galaxies are flying apart, and the Earth's spinning around and wobbling around and all the rest of it. Yet, from 24 trillion miles away, the North Star, Polaris, still tracks the Earth no matter what. And in fact, they all do. All the constellations, they stay in constant relation night after night, year after year. They spin about and all the rest of it, but there's no parallax, there's no movement with the stars at all. Coincidence, all the time coincidences. I mentioned this before about all the moon landings, supposed moon landings, they're all on the same side of the moon. There was 7 missions, 1 failed, number 13. So if you know your Freemason, your occult, your symbology, your numerology, all of that kind of stuff, it all fits in with this. This is what I think this kind of thing is where people get really crazy, because they might have studied science and it works. They might do it for a job. They might spend their whole life doing it. So one of the reasons why people can't accept truth, whether it's this crazy subject or whether it's just false flags, let's say just false flags, vaccinations and GMOs and all the rest of it, they generally spend their lifetime investing in it, whether it's studying it or whether it's their whole life and career and profession, to then turn around and say, oh yeah, I was duped. Oh, I'm really clever, but I was duped. You know what I mean? A lot of people won't do it, and I think I think the rulers do it. I never knew Isaac Mason. To be honest with you, there's no actual direct link with him being a Freemason, and I did look. There's a Freemasonic lodge named after him, so that normally gives a guide. He was certainly an alchemist, yeah. Which today, if you say in science I'm an alchemist, they say, okay, you're a quack, okay, you're trying to turn lead into gold, etc., etc. Not what I really want to get into, but again. Newton wrote Newton's Principia, the mass that so-called explained gravity. It's 3 times as big as the Bible, and it starts with the word if the earth is a ball. Same as famously Eratosthenes, the Greek guy who measured the curvature of the earth. Again, you've got to assume that the sun's millions of miles away and the earth's curved in the first place to come up with that result. All of it is connected. Another great hero of the 20th century, Einstein. Yeah, Einstein. It's like April Fool's. It's a common phrase. Einstein depicts somebody being clever, or obviously if you're being sarcastic, yeah, nice one, Einstein. It's an icon. They made him an icon. This is his Jesuit handler, Lemaitre. Again, I'm not going to get into it. You could do a whole 2 hours on Einstein and the fraud of Einstein. All of his ideas from other scientists that came before him, Lorentz, Poincaré, Maxwell, could go on and on. Again, research for yourself. All of these heroes. We don't expect it with science. We've seen it with politics. We've seen it with historical figures. We know World War II and all the rest of it, but we don't expect it with the sciences, because isn't science evidence-based? Isn't it observation? Isn't it the primary evidence that we were talking about before? But unfortunately, again, there's 2 sciences. There's your experimental science that we know about, and then there's experimental science, which is what we expect as science, what we all did in chemistry classes and what have you in school. You do something, you observe the results. But everything's theoretical science nowadays. After Einstein, everything after Einstein. And Einstein came along just after something called the Michelson-Morley experiment, which I may or may not mention shortly. Again, look it up for yourself. They don't do things by half. It's like I said about how suddenly NASA are in the news every week, because people are starting to twig onto this. This has become quite a big thing on social media. So again, at the end of the 19th century, people were doing real experiments and finding these results. But they've got the means they own the presses. Just like today, they own all the media. So they control the means of information, they control people, and they also control the education system. Because every textbook that we ever read was published by a big publishing house. Who owns those? Who says which writers get to get published or not? Really got published? Fantastic. Why? What you're writing about? Climate change. Okay. So it's like everything's corrupt, as we know. Newton, Kepler, symbolism. Yeah, I wouldn't be photographed with a pair of compasses or on a checkered floor or with 666 or 30 or anything like that, because I know what the symbolism means, and I don't want to be associated with that cult. Yeah, and I'm sure you're all the same. So you don't have a portrait taken. I'm going to come to Copernicus, because he's the main guy. He's the one that first started off the heliocentric idea. Right? To be honest with you, the history of geocentrism and heliocentrism, or flat Earth v globe Earth, it's one of those. The ancient Babylonians were all flat Earthers. They knew the Earth was fixed, because again, they stood there and then everything. They believed their own senses. They didn't have propaganda program to convince them that their senses were wrong and the opposite was true. I'm going to come to Copernicus, because he's the one that really started off the revolution. In fact, it's called On the Revolutions of the Spheres. And like I say, symbolism. The big connection. Who's read some of the Gnostic stuff, the Hermetica? You come across that in your research? Anybody come across that? Yeah. Hermes Trismegistus, the Kybalion, any of that stuff? Yeah, the Gnostic teachings. It's all connected, and like I say, these guys work by symbols. Again, Washington DC, Rome, in London, there are big obelisks everywhere. There's domes everywhere. There's all-seeing eyes. There's sun symbolism. It's everywhere. We are living in a global cult. Science is a big part of it. A big part of this, what I really want to say about Copernicus and his revolutionary tract in the, I think it's the 15th, 16th century, is that there was no science involved with it. He got it from the Hermetica. He got it from Hermes Trismegistus. This is the famous tract that's translated here. I'll read it out to you. In the middle of all, sits the sun enthroned. In this most beautiful temple could we place this luminary in any better position from which he can illuminate the whole at once. He is rightly called the lamp, the mind, the ruler of the universe. Hermes Trismegistus names him the visible god. Sophocles Electra calls him the all-seeing. So the sun sits as upon a royal throne, ruling his children, the planets which circle around him. That's sun worship. It's sun worship. It's Babylonian sun, fire, Lucifer worship, the light bearer, the light bringer. Yeah, it's all connected. You see how I don't know what it is. It's supposed to be holding. I just looked at it, I saw it, and I immediately saw all the symbolism in it. Mercury. I mean, do you know about? Again, I don't think you'll have missed this statue being unveiled in America. The statue of Baphomet with the two kids. I mean, it's a statue of Satan, basically. Yeah, Satanism's fine, no problem. Again, we know about it. The Illuminati is kind of a. It's not a secret anymore. They've got it at the big music awards. I can't remember what they call them. I pay that little attention to them. But it's all horns and Satan worship, and they're not even hiding it anymore. They're really not. But in terms of the world that we inhabit, or that we think we inhabit, and the image that we have in our heads of being on a ball Earth in a vast universe, and what's going to happen next, and maybe we're going to ruin this planet. Maybe we'll have to find another one, and all the rest of it. All of that is just image in your head. You need to get rid of that secondary knowledge, because, well, it's come from these guys, and these guys sacrifice children, and they have done since Babylonian times, and it's all part of the same thing. Yeah, completely connected. The Book of Thoth is Hermes Trismegistus is another name for Thoth, which is another name for Mercury, by the way. All the gods, they're all connected. Yeah, and it doesn't matter if it's Greek, Roman, Babylonian, they're all connected. They're all basically the same. It all comes down to the same guy. But again, you can check it out for yourself, all the symbolism, and it does go to masonry as well. This sounds like the same thing. This is from Albert Pike's book. His power was symbolised by an eye over a sceptre. The sun was turned by the Greeks, the eye of Jupiter, the eye of the world. His all-seeing eye now lodges. Osiris, invoked as the god that resides in the sun, and is enveloped by his rays. La 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 la. It's devil worship. It's sun worship. It's all we're doing. It's all we're doing by putting the sun. The sun's at the centre, and we're just irrelevant, moving around it. Even now that your own senses tell you every day that you're not moving at all. Otherwise, there won't be a gentle breeze just going by. You won't have a gentle. In fact, if airplanes fly at 500 miles an hour and the planet's spinning with its atmosphere, because that's why you don't feel it, they tell us, at 1,000 miles an hour, how would a plane ever go against the spin? They'd only have to go one way. They'd only be able to go one way. We can go on and on about, like I said before, but what I'm more interested in is what's really going on and how it connects, how the flat Earth connects through everything we do. How many knew or recognised or were aware of the Jesuit sun symbol above the door of number 10 Downing Street? It's the same as the the NBC symbol. Yeah, it's everywhere. And I posted this, and a few people say, "Oh, the island's not got one," or "This one's not got one." It takes me a couple of minutes to have a look through and find that the islands is the green sun, right? They've used it. They might not use it for the main flag. They might use it for the military. They might use it for their armed forces or whatever. But it's all the same. They're all part of it. We know about the New World Order. We know that all countries are in on it. There's no good guys and bad guys when it comes to rulers. There's rulers and the rest of us. But it's this religious aspect that, it's like I say, it's weird because it comes from science, or it seems to come from science, or they say this is evidence and fact and what have you, but it's actually religious. It's religious worship, and we don't know it. Yeah, you never know you're in a cult until you actually leave it. And we always think about the Moonies, the David Koresh, or even you think about it, or you used to think about Islamic extremists. We know that they're basically CIA mercenaries and what have you now. But that these people are being brainwashed. But the problem is when the majority of us, when it's 99% of us, and we're all brainwashed into a cult, then how are you going to know that anything's different? You're not going to notice that. Oh, it's just a flag. Oh, it's just a flag. It's just a flag. Just symbols. But these guys, and got the Pope right there, sun symbolism. It's all connected. Good old Nazis, cult of Ra, Baal, and the Jesuits. And the Jesuits control all the secret societies. Going back to science just for a minute to say about the Michelson-Morley experiment. I want to talk about gravity. Think about gravity. Everybody knows kind of gravity keeps you on the floor, but it also keeps us in orbit and keeps the moon in orbit, and it moves the tides. It does all these magical things. Nobody's ever explained it. Nobody's ever proved it. And if you think about it, if we're not on a spinning ball in a vast universe, or we're on just a big massive fixed plane and we've got heavenly bodies, you don't need gravity. You don't need gravity to explain anything. You only need it to explain why water curves onto a big ball and doesn't fly off like it does on a wet tennis ball. I need gravity for that. I like about the moon, I know it's only 240,000 miles away from us going round, and we're 93 million miles away from the sun, but we're kept in orbit to the sun by its gravity, but at some point surely the moon goes even nearer to the sun. So why doesn't the moon go over there? Why is it attracted to our gravity and not the sun's gravity? I'll tell you why. Because the image that we have in our head is false. It was given to us by repeated programming and indoctrination. Okay. I like this one as well. Again, if you work it out, you have to kind of do the model for yourself. But if you're in, we're allegedly going around the sun. So here's you in New York in June. Now every 24 hours you're going to do almost a complete rotation. We know it's 23 hours, 56 minutes, and this, that, and the other. Okay, again, so it tells. It's actually the rotation of the sun and the moon. But you're not going to be, after 6 months, completely. Your time is not going to. That would be in the dark. Yeah. 24 hours. You're still going to be facing the same way at the same time. At 1 o'clock, 24 hours later, yeah, it's not going to be night time, is it? Yeah. I don't know if you follow me here, so I might need a little bit more explanation. There's you in New York, and obviously it's going to rotate, and you're going to get however many hours a day and night. But 24 hours later, at 1 o'clock, you'll have moved on a little bit. But at 1 o'clock, it's still going to be daytime. You're not going to be in the night. That's true for the next day, the next day, the next day, the next day, the next day. 1 o'clock. You say it might change a couple of minutes. By the time you've got all the way over here, yeah, if we're on the other side of the sun, we're going to be in the dark at 1 o'clock. The hours don't change every 12 hours. It's a little bit. You have to think about that one. It's not something I can. You need to spend a little time thinking about it. But if we're on a rotating Earth, 24 hours, every 24 hours it rotates and it moves a little bit around the sun. But by the time you're over there, you've not lost 12 hours, so that you're in the darkness. I'll explain that a little bit better next time. But again, have a look for yourself. There's some videos on YouTube. You can have a look at that. But again, when you get your head around it, it's quite clear to see that you're not going to have darkness at 1 o'clock. That's just, it's just a ludicrous thing to say. Again, you start off with what we know from our senses, from our own experience, and then what can we definitely deduce from there. Airy's failure. Again, a very famous experiment. Airy was a royal astronomer royal in the 19th century. He put water in a telescope which slows the light down, and he basically wanted to see. It came as a failure, it was a null experiment, because he basically got the result like Michelson-Morley, that the Earth can't be spinning, it must be the stars that are moving, because the light from the stars was slowed down. So you'd have to tilt the telescope slightly. Again, look into it for yourself. You'd have to tilt the telescope slightly. If the Earth was moving and the stars were fixed, the telescope would have to be tilted slightly as the Earth moves every few minutes. But as he didn't have to tilt the telescope at all, the starlights still came straight in. It must be the stars that were moving, not the Earth. Again, it's a scientific experiment at the end of the 19th century. None of that gets done anymore. You won't get grants for it. But Fred Hoyle himself, he said that the difference between heliocentrism and geocentrism is one of relative motion. We can't tell. Again, our own experience. We stand on a flat Earth and we see the sun go overhead every day, and we see the moon sometimes. Again, depending how clear it is. And then we see the stars. Not much in the city. But we're told that we're moving, and most of those are still, and that's fair enough. So we go, okay, that's fine. But there's no actual. The maths works the same for both ways. Antarctica is really worth looking into. It's got huge potential. This world is run by greedy. It runs on greed and sex, and all the worldly desires and temptations that they can offer us to basically buy us and buy politicians and all the rest of it. They've got massive resources in Antarctica, huge amounts of coal and oil. It'd make everything really cheap. You're not allowed to go there, you're not allowed to drill. 58 countries have... I'm not sure how many countries, I do apologise. They signed it in 1958. There's a treaty, there's an Antarctic treaty that you can't, no corporation, no big company that basically run the world, they can't go and drill there for oil or whatever. Vast mineral resources. Yeah? They're not allowed to go. Is there any other treaty that stood that length of time? Why the Antarctica? Again, we previously thought of it, this little bottom bit of the pole. What's the big deal with the South Pole? Why is it so off limits? And again, I don't really cover it now because I've covered a lot and I haven't even scratched the surface. Is the way I feel. But you've got South America and Australia and South Africa. Yeah, there, and no flight goes under or across the South Pole. Not one flight. It'd be by far the quickest way to do it. Airplane fuel, well, probably suppose it's not now with the oil price dropping, but airplane fuel was pretty expensive. Certainly one of the major costs to run an airline. So why would you go thousands of miles out of the way if you could go? Certainly from South America to Australia. Yeah. Laws about going to Antarctica. If we decided, you know what, let's club together, let's go and see for ourselves, get a big boat, we'll do it in style, we'll do the luxury, whatever, and we'll go and see for ourselves what's going on there. Anywhere we wouldn't be able to go. You get closed down, because it's been tried. Loads and loads more questions. Loads and loads more questions that you can ask. Horizon's always flat. We've covered a lot of them tonight anyway. Done that one. Covered most of them. Good. Star trails. Are the stars moving or are we moving? If we're in a vast universe and there's galaxies moving off at different... I don't know, we're talking about big distances and everything else, and we're back to Einstein and relativity again. But how can star trails do that, really? There should be lots of parallax when we look at the stars. Why are they lying to us? They want to convince us that we're alone in a vast universe. We're randomly created. There's no purpose to us, really. There's no purpose to the whole human life. There's no purpose to your individual life. Not really. Yes, of course we have. We feel that, and we get on with it anyway. Even if you're, wherever you're at. But in the grand scheme of things, in the philosophical, why am I here? You know, in the really big questions, well, if they're already framed by we're in a vast universe, then your options or your thinking gets influenced by your environment 100%. If you believe you're in a vast universe and a spinning ball amongst lots of planets and an unknowable universe, then you're going to live your life as such, live your life accordingly. I don't believe that there is any vast universe out there. We see stars, but stars are points of light. Everything else is inferred. It really is. It's inferred both by Hollywood, by the Star Wars starship, by the sci-fi stuff, and by, like I say, by NASA, by those images which we've basically, you know, gone through and shown that these can't be real because the spaceships that they supposedly went on weren't real either. I love this quote. By removing Earth from the motionless sense of the universe, these dark philosophers who we've talked about have moved us physically and metaphysically from a place of supreme importance to one of complete nihilistic indifference. Does that not sound most of the world today, the kids that are coming up today, the things that are shown, the attitudes that they have? Yeah, there's not enough of us that are consciously aware that want to, you know, make the world a better place. Most people are going along with what's thrown at them with the world. They're not fighting it. They're not saying this isn't right. If the Earth, however, is the centre of the universe, the ideas of God, creation, and a purpose for human existence are resplendent. If the Earth is just one of billions of planets revolving around billions of stars and billions of galaxies, then the ideas of God, creation, and a specific purpose for Earth and human existence become highly implausible. It goes along, it's part of a trio of things, heliocentrism. It goes along with the Big Bang and evolution, and they're all theories. And it's a trio. And again, evolution, the theory of evolution was something we're all taught as science, as scientific fact, and it's, obviously I can't go into much detail now, but it's another one of those things, scientific fact, you must be mad to question it. But again, when you look into the scientific evidence for it, fossil evidence, the only question you have to ask really with theory of evolution is, show me evidence. Show me evidence of one single species turning from one animal turning from one species into a completely different animal. Fossil evidence, a live animal, a half fish, half frog, a half man, half monkey, yeah, anything like that. And how do you have half an eye? Yeah, if we're all evolved, something created eyes. If we started out as amoeba and then the amoeba at some point created eyes, at some point in its evolution, well, at some point did it have half an eye or three quarters of an eye or a bit of an eye? Because you need the whole eye to work. Same with the liver and the heart and all the rest of our organs and well, every part of life really. It's part of the same thing. It's getting us to believe that we are random and undesigned and uncreated. And it's funny for what purports to be for the truth movement, where we don't want religious instruction. We don't want bad rules. We don't want bad laws. To come kind of full circle round to the idea that there is not only creator, but it seems that all of these guys have been spending all their time trying to convince us that there isn't, through NASA and space lies, and then this thing about evolution, like I say, topic. Again, look into it for yourself by all means. So it all goes down to the same thing. Big Bang, evolution, and heliocentrism are all Kabbalist ideas. They're actually religious ideas. So people that go around thinking that they're atheists are actually, again, probably indoctrinated into this cult. What do I think the Earth looks like? No idea. This is the general model from the Flat Earth Society. I don't believe this is true. I'll tell you why. There's a couple of things actually, but this is one of the main ones. 24-hour Arctic sun is a fact. And I'm talking about the Arctic Circle as well. It's not just right on the North Pole. On the Arctic Circle, you get 24-hour sun, but we never see the sun in the North sky. Yeah? Anyone that's looked into this flat Earth model will say the sun goes round and round and round and round. It goes tighter for our northern summer and then goes away again as it's doing now for the southern winter. And I believe this model for a little while, but we could never figure out, hang on a minute, So there's the Arctic sun. It must go really tight to never go down, but if we're living here, we never see the sun in the North Sky. Yeah? And the models from the Flat Earth Society, it's also the UN map. So again, they have the main idea, but they also control the opposition. They also control the secondary, as far as I'm concerned, as well. Ancient Hebrew conception, you could also say the ancient Sumerian conception as well. This is probably getting to it, but this is why we need people to look into it, scientists especially, scientists and explorers and what have you. Tell us what it's really like. We want to know what it's really like. We know we've been lied to. Once you figured out you've been lied to about the model that they've given us, well, I can't stand there and say this is the model and this is the model, this is the model, because I haven't done the experiment, so they haven't. So we can break down the old model, but let's get together and find out what the new model is, or what the real model is, not the new model, what the real model is. So fixed plane Earth, it's got mountains and what have you. It's the firmament, a dome above it. Again, the only evidence that there is some kind of limit to the sky is the fact that we obviously haven't been beyond it. There's no evidence, there's no actual hard evidence for it. Where I'm at now, this is probably the closest, and it's the map that we're all kind of used to, the Atlas kind of map. The only problem with the model that I've got in my head at the moment, and I'm not saying this is the model and I'm fixed on it. If somebody comes up, and as soon as people come up with new information, I'm open to change, and that's how we should be. Is that it does fit perfect together. Remember the old BBC rolling logo? Yeah, you can do it for yourself. I took about 3, and it's seamless. It's seamless. There's no joins in it whatsoever. So here's me saying I think the spinning ball Earth is just made up, but I think, and again, it wouldn't work if you could prove it one way or the other. But the sun rises in the east, yeah. Okay, it will go further north and further south from the equator as it goes along. It goes along, lights up the day, yeah, and we can look at this one time and day as well. Lights up the day. When it goes to the west, that's the international date timeline. I think it appears straight away at the east again. There's no way of proving it. It's an infinite space loop, and if it didn't work properly, you'd notice. It'd be like the Bermuda Triangle or something. It's only where I'm up to so far, yeah. But the problem, this is the other problem with this, the Flat Earth Movement's map, is they've got Australia as big as Russia, as long as Africa. Yeah, the masses are completely wrong. Yeah, because again, from first evidence, you know, people will have measured exactly how you can go up in a plane and obviously measure along the land exactly how big these continents are. That can be confirmed. Night and days, where it's night and where it's day, can be confirmed by people on the ground, by primary knowledge. Yeah, so if there's official sunrise for where I live, you know, in the north of England, and they say it's sunrise at 7 o'clock, and we know it's sunrise at 5 o'clock, I say, hang on a minute, that's completely wrong. Yeah, the timeanddate.com will show you night and day patterns anywhere in the world. Yeah. We've had a video could show you some animations of it, but this is about where I'm up to. We're coming to the very end of it now. Like I say, it's all completely about getting us away from the idea that the Earth was created by a supreme being. He put us here, and the problem is that, not the problem is, the idea of heliocentrism, the Triple Crown, heliocentrism, the Big Bang and evolution disproves everything in the Bible. It disproves it. But for myself, if I've done the research and gone, hang on a minute, evolution's flattered the globe Earth, the heliocentrism is just completely fallen apart. And there's no Big Bang. Something can't come out of nothing anyway. It's completely scientific, which is why I say it's come from Kabbalism. Well, that puts the Bible back on the table for me. Because people ask why the flat Earth. There's 2 things. People say, one, it's a psyop. It can't be a psyop, can it? It can't be a psyop if they're not mass doing it. This is generally come from the ground up. But the other thing is, say, what does it matter? What does it matter if it's flat or round or triangle or square? There's governments and they're attacking people and they're doing all this stuff, but it matters everything. It matters everything. If it comes down to who we really are, what we're really doing here. The big philosophical questions that every single person asks themselves, whether they admit it or not, every single person really asks themselves, what am I doing here? Is there a God or isn't there? Why is all religious instruction terrible? Why does no religious instruction ever bring anybody close to God or being godly? The religions act terribly, they really do. But this is the key for me, because I wasn't brought up religious. In fact, I was atheist up until 6 years ago. This is the key for me, realising that they've lied about this, the size of the deception, that they've got us all believing we're on a spinning ball earth. And really, when you go outside and you actually look for yourself and you trust your own senses instead of what they've told us, and you go, this place isn't spinning around at 1,000 miles an hour. Worse still, everything's here for us. The sun and the moon and the stars are a magnificent timepiece that have been created by the Creator, by a God who loves you and loves all of us. And that's why He's created that timepiece for us. But somebody has quite cleverly taken that and got us to believe virtually the opposite. The size and the cleverness of the deception is often what puts people off accepting it. I'll leave it there. Thank you very much. Who used to think they were on a spinning globe earth and now doesn't? I've not convinced anybody yet. Do your own research by all means. Check everything out. I've covered a lot of information, and to be honest with you, it's either a third or a half of it, I don't think.
What do you think we are?
Say again.
What do you think we are?
I think we're human beings. I think we're men and women created by God.
And the planet as we know it, what do you think that is?
In terms of
shape.
Yeah, I think it's probably that. Well, in terms of where it is, I think this, like I say, this idea of we're in a vast universe. Again, I think that's in our heads. It's only looking at the stars that we can say that anybody can convince us. Look, the stars there, aren't they all suns? Well, if you get out of your head the idea that these stars are also suns and they've got planets, because we're not in a solar system as far as uncovered. We're all in a solar system with planets. We are, that's the Earth. There's the sun and the moon and the stars, and they're all, whatever they're doing. Like I say, I don't know the exact model, but they're all going about for us. It's a magnificent timepiece in the sky for us. The difference is in perspective. Is it shows you how important we really are. And let's face it, we've been, put down and denigrated and shut down for thousands of years. This has been going on for generations and generations. But instead of thinking, like I say, that we're lost among some vast universe and we might be able to, save this planet, I don't know what's going to happen and all the rest of it, but no, this is all there is. And even though quite clearly Lucifer, Satan, the Dark One, the evil people, the Freemasons, whoever you want to say, are quite clearly running the world, they're only running the world for as long and as far as God will let them. So, why is there evil in the world? You can go on and on and on and on. Most people about religious instruction, I did as well. I rejected it by the time I was 11 years old. I said, what a load of crap. I was brought up Jewish. It turns out they don't teach the Bible either. They teach the Talmud. The Talmud was learnt in Babylon when the Israelites got exiled to Babylon. The Roman Catholic Church does not teach the Bible. It's changed the Ten Commandments. It's changed. Obviously anybody's looked into it. They own the Jesuits. The Jesuits own the Freemasons and all the secret societies. They are the most evil. But wouldn't you do that if you were trying to get people away from God? If you're trying to get people to disbelieve that, the best thing to do is infiltrate the religions and go around killing people in the name of God. Impersonate.
I was brought up strict Catholic.
Right.
Absolutely strict Catholic.
Yeah.
And one of the last days at school, they tried to get us to become a nun. All the the young girls, they tried to convert us to go to be a nun.
Well, the convents were originally invented so the bishops could, There's no celibacy, and there's nothing about celibacy in the Bible. They certainly don't worship on a Sunday, you know. So not just the Catholic religion, all the Christian, you know, all the Protestant denominations. Sunday goes back to sun worship again. We're going back to Lucifer and Satan worship. It's part of the same thing. Counterfeit religion.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
It seems to me like that, you know, evil has been sort of controlling the world for a long time.
Yeah.
Do you think in our lifetime it's changing? Because a lot of stuff recently seems to be really.
It looks like it, doesn't it? I think that's what we're all. That's why we're all. I'm new to the truth movement as well, if you like. I fully woke up in 2013. I've realised all my life that things were wrong. As I think I said in an interview with Alex, but it wasn't until in 2013 that it fully dawned on me that evil wasn't running the world. I mean, seriously, organised, psychopathic evil. So. There seems to be, I mean, this particular topic and movement does seem to be growing, exponentially at a faster rate than anything else. But you don't know, I mean, I see people say the same things in the flat earth groups that people will say about all kinds of, everyone's going to get the truth now, everyone's going to find this out and everything else. And it quite clearly doesn't happen, because if they've spent thousands of years raising this system of politics and banking and finance and media and education and every aspect of our lives, it's not going to fall apart by even 100 or 1,000 or 100,000 people leaving it, which would be the best thing that you can do, I now believe. Are we going to see in our lifetime? I keep saying one generation. I mean, I don't know if people were looking at the September the 23rd and 24th and 28th with all the. I mean, the overhype sort of kind of gives it away in the first place. And you're like, well, something might happen, something might not. I certainly kept my eye on the stocks and make sure, obviously, if there's going to be a financial crash, let's go out and buy as many tins as you can possibly can. But apart from that, we're doing everything up front. It was the Pope going to the UN, signing off the climate change agenda. That fits in with the climate change and the global warming and all the rest. It fits in with the flat Earth realisation as well, the fixed Earth realisation as well. So is all the aliens, everything alien. I don't think they need Project Bluebeam. When I first discovered the flat Earth, I thought, well, it's okay. Well, Project Bluebeam's for definite. Then they definitely do some alien deception. Either saviour more than Independence Day. They're coming to invade us, and we all have to get together. Well, that's one way to bring about a one world government. To have a constant threat from Pluto, I suppose, or wherever they're going to bring the aliens from. But they don't need it. I say, as long as people are 100% fixed in this idea that there's basically there's no God and there's no purpose to their lives, and we are at the mercy of a random forces, and the rulers' whims. People do feel helpless. I think people are way more. I think people are very aware that there's something seriously wrong when people aren't getting done for child rape and all the rest of it. And they're establishment figures. If it was you or I, and obviously we wouldn't be child rapers in the first place, because we're not psychopathic, Luciferian, Babylonian child sacrificers. But if you committed a crime, you know damn well you'd be charged, you'd be tried, you'd be imprisoned very, very quickly, and rightly so. But there's a second set of there's a second class of, or a third class, if you like, of individuals, and there's millions of them, and they seem immune from the law, and that's not right. We don't have justice. We don't have the things that they say that we do, and it all fits in because we're all part of this Babylonian cult. And I say Babylonian, you can call it satanic, you can call it Luciferian. It's a counterfeit religion. The prevailing philosophy of the day, and it's very popular in the truth movement and the New Age kind of thing, is you can be your own God, we can be our own saviours, that we have it in ourselves to fully evolve to the next level of consciousness. And I certainly thought that way up until very recently, 6-9 months ago, but I've never seen anybody create apart from the usual way that we create life, but no man or scientist has created life from scratch out of nothing. But yet life exists. So how can those two things, those two things should, certainly give us pause for thought. It's different. When I used to read the Bible or religion, it's just such a turn off. It's an immediate turn off. That's again a good job. That's a brilliant job of programming. You mentioned the word Jesus. I've watched enough South Park episodes now, and and all the rest of it. It's a joke. It's a joke figure, and all the rest of it. But Satan runs the world, and we all think like that. We all think it's all what have you. Then you've got to take a second look at it. I think anyway. I could rant on for ages. Any more questions specific to the flat Earth? Any
Yeah, satellite dishes that we have on our houses.
Yeah.
The vast majority of houses in the UK, I would say 80% going on, have a satellite dish. Now, I've looked on Wikipedia recently, and it gives a very clear, non-confusing explanation that is communicating with an orbiting satellite. So why then do they all have to be at a low trajectory, at a shallow angle, and all point in the same direction? Because surely, if they were communicating that something was above us in Earth's orbit,
you'd do a job roll back, wouldn't
it would just be up, wouldn't it, on our roofs or on pointing. Why does it have to be at a shallow trajectory and they're all on the same street at least, pointing the same way?
Yeah. Well, they're virtually horizontal, aren't they?
Well, they're at a very shallow angle.
Yeah. I mean, it's part of the other one I mentioned as well. They're obviously pointing to the towers, aren't they?
Yes.
They're obviously pointing to cell towers. Because that's people say, hang on, my GPS works. Although GPS has been around since the 70s, so I'm pretty sure there wasn't that many satellites up there at the time. But your GPS works from cell phone towers. 3 cell phone towers will triangulate your position. Because if it worked off satellites, well, if your mobile worked off satellites anyway, you wouldn't lose your signal in the middle of the countryside, or the middle of the desert or wherever. You lose your signal. If we're covered with satellites, then you should be blanket coverage everywhere. Things work. This is what happens. You see, and that's it. People go, well, you're saying science doesn't work, and you're talking to me on the internet. How come we've not gone to the moon if you're talking to me on the internet? One thing doesn't necessarily follow the other, and just again because the technology works, or we've got new technology. Maybe they spent some of the billions of dollars that they've stolen off us, actually on producing some decent technology.
I think you've given us loads of evidence, actual physical proof.
Okay.
And it was really interesting the part where you were speaking about New York at 1 o'clock.
Right.
And then the other side of the sun.
Yeah.
You'd be in the dark.
Yeah.
And you'd also see a completely different set of stars behind the sun. You wouldn't just see the same constellations, would you? You'd see totally different arrangements of stars.
100%. And also, if that's the sun and the Earth, surely the sun's light should block out a lot of those stars. But as we rotate, we see all the same stars every night. Yeah. Okay. Well, they change slightly they do change slightly from the year round, from season to season, but the stars rotate slightly every night.
You wouldn't see the plough.
There's no blacked out bit.
It would all be
on the
millions
other side.
of miles in the opposite direction.
Yeah, we should be we would be facing the other way. The holes become apparent once, this is what I say about weighted evidence, the holes become apparent in the model that we've all been given once you start examining. It's basically pulling those threads. Once you start pulling the threads, you start asking yourself question upon question upon question, and it's growing. Like you say, it's a realisation that's growing, because it does come down to people say, well, why is it so important? Why is the shape of it so important? Because it's how can the world where we live, right, the very basics of the land that we stand on, how can it not be important? The shape of it, and is there a universe out there? Are there any other? If this is the only planet, and if you think about it, just look at the variety of life, the millions and millions and millions of diversity of creatures. Yeah, none of which have ever changed into another one. There is adaptation, quite obviously, variation in genes and all the rest of it. But why would you need another planet? You look at any of those documentaries, wildlife documentaries, wildlife documentaries. You see these mad creatures in the sea, right at the bottom of the sea, and they look like aliens. They look like the maddest creatures you could possibly think of. There's such a variety of life. Again, if you're a creator, unless we came out randomly from nothing, if you're a creator and you're going to create a world for beings to live in, and hopefully one day for you to live in them as well. Then just create one great big massive place and put everything there. Why would you have several thousand different planets?
Just a basic flat earth question, what do you think's at the end then, if you sort of walked in one direction, would you get, are you saying this is massive and then limitless? Or?
I don't think, I know people think it's limitless. I think there are bounds to it, but like I say, if you carry on going west from California or from South America, whichever way, you'll just end up there. I also think if you go north from Russia, you'll end up coming south into Canada, and I think it's the same for the south as well. Obviously, it's Antarctica, but so I think there are limits. If you kind of got high enough to see it, you could see the edges of it. But I think in terms of actual exploration from the ground. And you're talking, I could say, I don't know whether they'd ever let us do it, but if we've got 20 or 30 years, then there's plenty of time to find out and certainly make advances on it. So yeah, people say there's an infinite plane, people talk about the ice wall as well. Again, that's going back to the circular model. I think there's an ice wall and it's being guarded, but again, if it's 25,000 miles, you always get whistleblowers. 75 NASA scientists have been killed over the last 3 or 4 years. So people say, well, it's a lot of people to keep quiet, and millions of people, thousands of people have to be on it. Thousands of people aren't enough. They join the Freemasons and they swear blood oaths. Not just the Freemasons, it could be all these secret societies, but they swear oaths to those societies to keep the secrets, and they get a nice life out of it. Yeah, they get promotions and better jobs, and doors open for them. So the world opens up for them. So people do keep quiet, but you do get whistleblowers. If there was an ice wall and there was a huge big Antarctic ice army guarding it, which is what people can conjecture, again you'd have whistleblowers. You'd know about it. There's somebody somewhere would say, "What's all this money for?" Yeah, what's all somebody somewhere would find out about it. I'm not saying there isn't. I'm not saying that is the model and the other model's wrong. But there are enough holes in the other model. I'm saying the round model. The flat circle. The globe model for me is gone. But I've had these. I've been living this for a year. This might be completely new to you. You might have had a quick look at it. You might have looked, and what have you. For me, like I say, once you've looked at a weight of evidence, hopefully I've shown you a weight of evidence tonight, and I've not even scratched the surface. I may have done half of it. There's another whole half out there, like I say, the moon and all kinds of things. But if I've shown you enough to certainly pique your interest and see the size of this massive deception, then I've done my job and it's been a worthwhile evening. Anything else?
They certainly had a goal, didn't they, in the 50s. If there is a firmament covering the flat Earth with the nuclear testing, where they were just basically firing up in the sky, weren't they?
Firing up missiles.
Which might have been stupid, actually. A stupid thing to do.
That might be where meteors come from. See, there's things that I don't know and I can't explain yet, and there's certainly anomalies. What about this and what about that? But that's the idea, is for people to ask questions and research themselves.
I've got a question. The official line is the Earth's atmosphere moving with the spin of the Earth.
Yeah,
that's the official line.
Yeah.
Okay, so when a space rocket or a shuttle leaves the Earth's atmosphere and then it comes into a vacuum where there isn't 1,036 miles an hour of spin, wouldn't that have some sort of effect on the rocket? Akin to travelling down the motorway at 70 miles an hour and throwing something out and watching the object just go from one speed and decelerating massively. Surely something like a space rocket that hasn't got that much shielding, it's only...
It's a tin can.
Yeah.
Really.
Or a shuttle, once it leaves the Earth's atmosphere and then goes without the spin, surely that's going to do something.
I'd expect it to rip it apart.
Well, it would.
There's a lovely video of vacuums picking things up, vacuums beating gravity. But apparently our atmosphere is held in by gravity and the vacuum and the pressure. And I might be showing my ignorance of the official scientific line there. I would imagine I am. But it can't be confirmed by actual scientific experiments or actual personal observation. Like I say, the witness testimony of several, if you all told me, we've all seen X, Y, Z, hang on a minute, we saw, if anything I'd shown tonight, I'd say, oh, hang on a minute, that's not, then I'd be like, oh, okay, fine. Witness testimony of ordinary people is almost as good as, where you can't confirm it for yourself. But this idea that, the atmosphere, and by the atmosphere I'm presuming they mean the actual air that we're breathing, it's all spinning round at 1,000 miles an hour with us, but how can things how can a bee go, or a butterfly nicely flap the other way? Surely it's got to go with a spin. It doesn't make sense once you start, thinking about it, and it's the Emperor's new clothes. It's some saying the Emperor's butt naked. It's the same. It's exactly the same thing with it. I'm going to dwell on that. I hope you've enjoyed that.
Any more questions?
Can we have a couple of children, please?
Okay then, I'll play you a song. Any particular request?
You will.